Hi everyone, today I have 7 or 8 pieces from the SÉZANE'S collection that just dropped recently. You may have seen my video reacting to the collection when it released, my initial impressions. There were definitely a few items that I wanted to try for myself, so I've ordered them, they are here, and we're gonna try them on together and I'm gonna talk you through what I think of the pieces now I've actually seen them in real life and tried them on. Remember, I am on a low buy, so I will not be keeping all of these items, so I definitely need your input and help as well. If you have particular favorites from this video, one item that you think I should keep out of all of them, I would love to know your feedback, your input, so let me know in the comments down below. Should we start with knitwear? I feel like that's what most people want to see when it comes to SÉZANE'S. So I tried 2 pieces of knitwear from the latest collection. The first piece was the daisy jumper. I talked about this in my previous video. I said I really liked the look of it and it was definitely a piece that I would potentially recommend, but obviously I hadn't seen it at that point. So I ordered it to try. I ordered mine in a size large. I think this was because the medium was sold out. I would usually go for a medium. Now on first impressions, I really do like this jumper for what it is. It's 100% organic cotton and it feels very thick, very heavy. It's definitely a heavyweight, thick cotton. It reminds me a little bit of the texture and the weightiness of the leontine. It almost feels like a hemp type fabric because it does have that scratchier texture. I would say the daisy jumper is not quite as rough and scratchy. It's a little bit softer. So if you do find the leontine a little bit uncomfortable, which I know a few people do, this might be a better alternative. I personally like that really heavy feeling cotton because it just feels expensive in my opinion. It feels quite luxurious to wear. The shape of this jumper is cropped and wide, so not everyone is going to like this. It definitely comes up shorter than the leontine, even though I got a bigger size because my leontine is in a medium, and it's very boxy and very wide as you can see in the try on clips. The neckline is definitely a true boat neck. It is quite wide. The buttons themselves, they feel okay. They're not my favorite. They don't feel very weighty. So if you're expecting really weighty, luxurious buttons, these are not them. They feel quite thin actually. I do like the shade of gold they've used. It's not too yellow toned. It doesn't look cheap in its color, but yeah, I was a little bit disappointed with how light and I wouldn't say flimsy, but just how thin the buttons felt. The biggest drawback for me personally with this jumper are the sleeves. They are wide. They do not come in the wrists like a lot of jumpers do. They are quite wide cuffs and I just don't find this very practical. I don't particularly like the look either. I think it's a little bit more flattering when you have something that does come in at the wrist, especially when it is so boxy and oversized in the body. The other thing with these wide sleeves is they can be quite awkward to put under coats and jackets if you're layering this jumper in the winter time, so I don't find that very practical. Also, if you're cooking or doing anything practical with your hands, then you do run the risk of like dipping your sleeves into things, which again is not the most practical. So for me, that is the main reason I won't be keeping this jumper. If that isn't a deal breaker for you, I do think it's a nice jumper. I do think you could size it down if you don't want it to be super wide and super boxy, but just bear in mind that it will come up a little bit shorter in that case and it is already quite cropped. Moving on to the second piece of knitwear I bought this time. This is the Baptiste Cardigan. This was probably the one that I was slightly more excited about over the daisy, and I do think I prefer this one ever so slightly. It is again 100% organic cotton, but it does feel a little bit different in texture to the daisy. I will show you some close-ups, but it might be hard to tell visually, but the feel of this is definitely lighter weight. It's definitely a little bit thinner, a little bit stretchier, and a little bit softer as well. So if you're not a fan of that rough, hempy, thick cotton, then this is a lot softer, a lot smoother, and you might prefer this. It definitely sits a little bit more form-fitting to the body as well. It's not like a super boxy, oversized silhouette. It is more streamlined. Again, I got this in a size large. I would definitely be interested to try the medium. I do think this fits me fine, but again, the way it's intended to be worn is a little bit more form-fitting, so I think the medium might be slightly better for me. But I am quite happy with this size as well, so I would say you can go for your true size in this particular one. The buttons on the Baptiste are very similar to the buttons on the daisy. Again, they feel a little bit light for my liking, especially for the price point of the Baptiste, which is £170. It is more expensive, quite a bit more expensive than the rest of their knitwear, including the daisy jumper. So I do wish they'd chosen a more heavyweight, more luxurious button. I like the shade of gold. It's slightly rosier than the daisy. It's slightly on the more yellow gold side, and then the Baptiste is a little bit rosier, pinker. So that's just quite a subtle detail, but I thought I would mention it. Colour-wise, the stripes on the Baptiste are definitely more of a true white. I wouldn't say they're 100% white. They're kind of a similar shade to the jumper I have on now. They are an ecru, but they're closer to white than the Daisy. The Daisy is definitely more of like a beigey, warmer, almost like a light brown tone, whereas the Baptiste is more of a true, just slightly off-white ecru. My personal preference, I'm definitely leaning towards the Baptiste. I think it is just slightly more my style. I slightly prefer the fit. And also you do get a little bit more versatility. Obviously you can wear it done up and you can also wear it undone as a cardigan. Both of them I think can make good purchases. It just totally depends on your preferences, what you would get most wear out of, what kind of texture of material you prefer. So let me know if you've tried either of these, if you're keeping either of these, but I'm definitely swaying towards the Baptiste. Next up, we have a blouse. I really couldn't resist trying this one when I saw it styled on the website with the Carlo Jacket. I have got that jacket to show you in a second as well, but we'll start with the blouse. This is the Marinette shirt. It's a beautiful true white, not off-white, true white lacy eyelet detail blouse. I really think this is really well done in terms of like the stitching, the buttonholes, the buttons themselves, the cuffs. All of the details are immaculate in my opinion. It looks very high quality and I love that the design is all over the shirt, including the back. If I compare it to something like the rim blouse, which I don't own in white, but I do own in the burgundy, and it does come in a white version, that has a completely plain back and then the design detail is just on the front. So I definitely think that they've stepped it up with this Marinette blouse and it feels more expensive than something like the rim, even though I think it is pretty much the same price. One thing I've noticed on Sézane is all of their blouses tend to be about £100, and that includes their cotton, their silk, their polyester and their viscose. So if natural fibres are important to you, you don't actually have to pay any more for the cotton and the silk than you typically do for their polyester and their viscose. It isn't crazy see-through either if you wear white or nude underneath, because it is on the thicker side in terms of the material, so even though it does have those holes in it, you're not seeing too much through the shirt, which I like. Size-wise, I got a size 10. I think this one runs a little big. This feels like quite a generous 10 to me. If you're between sizes, I would definitely say you could go down a size. I would almost be tempted to try the 8. I do find myself doing that a lot with Sézane blouses and shirts actually, particularly their lacy ones. I find that often they run at least a size big. So yes, if you're looking at this one in particular, I would definitely say you could size down. Should we move on to the Carlo Jacket next? Because this is what I wanted to style primarily with the previous shirt. So I got it in the blue and white check. I think this one is sold out currently. I think I got one of the last ones and I was just desperate to try it because I love the idea of it. I don't have a vest like this in my wardrobe. I do have a knitted vest, but this is more of a jacket as opposed to a knitted jumper style. I do like this jacket. I would say this one also runs a little bit big. I got mine in a size 10 and again, I would say it fits fine, but I would say it's quite a generous 10, so if you are on the smaller side, I would definitely size down. You know, I will actually cut Sézane some slack for that because they do actually suggest that themselves on their website. They say if you want a more adjusted look to size down, and if you want an oversized look to get your regular size, and I would definitely agree with that. I like this jacket overall. It's about 75% wool, so a good proportion wool. The lining itself is pretty. They use this lining quite a lot. It's 50% acetate, 50% viscose. It's okay. And again, all of the buttons are reinforced. The stitching looks neat. I'm not sure I love the colorway. I think I'm a little bit underwhelmed by the color. I think maybe because it's not very bright and it's not very high contrast. I think something like the ochre shade of this jacket looks so stunning, especially paired with white, because it is quite a striking, unusual color, but this one is a little bit underwhelming, I think. So I don't think I'll be keeping it for that reason. My only other gripe with it is the pocket placement. I don't love jackets that have these horizontal pockets. I want just regular side pockets that I can actually use. These are sewn up, but I do think you could unpick them and they would be real functioning pockets, but you just don't really use pockets or put your hands in pockets that are placed here. I want them at my side, which is much more comfortable to use and actually kind of put your hands in if you want to. So that's one of my gripes. I wish the pockets were different. Other than that, it is nice, but again, a little bit underwhelmed. I don't think I'll be keeping it. Another jacket that I tried is the Fiona suede jacket. This was top of my list to try. I love suede and I loved the look of this. I love that it's kind of like a Betty cardigan style jacket in that it has those top chest pockets and it has the pretty button details. It's very feminine. It's definitely a more feminine take on their classic suede wheel jacket, which is more masculine and more androgynous. It's longer and it's a little bit more of a chore style jacket, whereas this is definitely more cropped and more feminine. It has rounded edges, the buttons are very round, the collar is quite round, and I really do prefer that kind of style. I will say this one I got in a 40, so a UK 12, which is on the higher end of my size for tops, and it is quite small. If I was going to keep this, I would want to size up at least one, if not two sizes. And I never really do that for top half items. I never really get a 42 or a 44. So I definitely think this one runs small, especially if you're considering that most of the time when you're wearing a jacket like this, you're probably going to have some kind of knit or long sleeve top underneath. I mean, sure, there'll be times where you might just have a thin t-shirt on underneath, but that's not going to be all the time. And I think it's going to be really hard to layer this jacket in your regular size with anything other than a really thin t-shirt. So I don't think that's very practical. So if you are looking at the Fiona, I would say that it runs small. I would say at least size up one. I have the Nelson jacket in a 38, so actually a size smaller, and it is still bigger than the Fiona in a 40. So the Fiona is definitely quite tight and quite cropped as well. Other than that, I do really like it. I love SÉZANE'S suede. The buttons are popper buttons, which I don't love, but I do appreciate that they've covered it in suede. It's definitely an expensive jacket. It is almost twice the price of the suede wheel jacket, so I do think you really have to love the shape to make this jacket worthwhile. But the quality itself does feel really lovely. The smell of the suede is lovely, and yes, I like it. Again, I don't love it. We have one final jacket to talk about. This is the Clyde Trench coat in the ecru colour. I couldn't resist trying this. Now, I've gone back and forth with this because I already own the Clyde in the camel tone. This was the first colour that they brought out, the only colour they brought out for a few months. I love the style of this coat. I love that slightly British Mac style with the tartan lining. I think it's really chic, but I really liked this ecru lighter version. Now, I don't know if this is just my brain because we're moving into spring, I mean, albeit very slowly, but we're approaching spring, so I'm thinking about lighter tones and how to add those into my wardrobe. Whereas when I bought the camel version originally, we were heading into autumn, so I was much more thinking about those autumnal orangey brown colours. So I don't know what to think about this. Let me know what you think. I'll try them both on for you. Which one do you think suits me best, and which one would you keep? Would you keep my original one, my camel one, or would you switch it out and maybe sell the camel one and replace it with the ecru? I don't want to have both in my wardrobe because I think that's totally unnecessary, but I would love your input in which one suits me more and which one you think I would get more wear out of. I do feel like the camel is like an autumnal trench and the ecru is a spring trench, but I just don't need trenches for different seasons, especially when I do also own other trench coats like the Scott Trench from SÉZANE'S as well. My only reservation with this ecru one is, you'll have to let me know what you think, and I'm hesitant to say this because I don't want you guys to put me off keeping this coat because I do really like it, but it is slightly giving me lab coat vibes because of the light colour. I think this is only the case if you don't show any of the lining, so I think you can combat this by rolling up the sleeves so you have that tartan lining on the cuffs, and also as you move, as long as you don't do the coat up, you can kind of see the tartan lining as well underneath. So I do think that's fine, and I think it looks really nice that way, but I think if you have the sleeves down and you had it buttoned up, it would definitely be giving lab coat or doctor's coat, which I obviously don't love. So you'll have to let me know what you think. Shall I keep my camel on? Is that better? Or should I replace it with the ecru? And do you think it gives lab coat vibes or not? I would love your opinion. If you are interested in the Clyde, by the way, because it does come in a whole host of different colours now, I appreciate most are currently sold out, but if they do restock, do be aware that some of the compositions for some of the different colours are different. So my camel one is 100% cotton on the outside, and my ecru one is 50% cotton, 50% viscose. So that's something to bear in mind, and that's something that's a little bit sneaky with SÉZANE. Sometimes different colorways do have different compositions. So if composition is something that you look for and you would only want 100% cotton, which I totally understand, then I would definitely check, because I'm not sure about the other colorways like the green one, the black one, what the composition of those is like. Okay, last item in my video today is a pair of boots. I think I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I definitely have a pair of ankle boots on my wish list for this year. Whether I'll get them this season, kind of January, February, March time, or whether I'll wait till September when it gets to autumn, I'm not sure yet. I did want to try these though, because these have been on my radar for quite a while. These are the Axelle boots. I decided to order them in a slightly more unusual shade. I didn't really want to buy another pair of black ankle boots. I've had a few pairs of black ankle boots over the years, and yes, they're timeless, they're chic, they're classic, but sometimes I feel a little bit boring in a black shoe, especially because I wear slightly lighter tones a lot of the time. Sometimes I find that black is a little bit harsh, so I prefer something like a brown, and I thought this was just a little bit more of an unusual take on brown. It's like a honey colour. These are a patent leather. They feel really good quality on first impressions, but I think with shoes, I can't really recommend them until I've actually used them and worn them and decided if they're comfortable, which I'm not even sure if I'm going to do yet because I don't know if I'm going to keep them. So I can't really recommend them on comfortability. When I first put them on, they do feel really comfortable. They feel like a nice heel height. They are somewhat cushioned on the sole, not crazily, but it has kind of the same cushioning that all of Sézane shoes have. It is also fully leather lined on the inside, which I thought was quite nice. It feels like a nice soft leather. And Sézane shoes now do always come with a rubber sole already put on them, which I do appreciate. I know shoes from their older collections didn't have this. They had the leather sole and you would have to take them to a cobbler. I really don't like that extra step, so I like that they are adding the rubber sole on now as well. I also appreciate that the sole of the shoe at the front protrudes slightly more than the leather. This is a tip I actually learned from Helen, from Daily Helen, who I'd highly recommend following if you don't already. But yeah, she mentioned this about the Vicky loafers from Sézane. It's the same thing with these Axelle boots, and it's really good to prevent the leather on the front of your shoe getting scuffed because the sole actually protrudes more than the leather. If you do scuff it on a pavement or as you're walking, it's going to be the rubber sole that's going to catch that rather than the patent leather. So I do appreciate that about the shoes. I think the design of them is thoughtful. I can't really complain about any elements of them. I like that they have a hidden stretchy panel. I hate, one of my bugbears is when shoes have like a big thick stretchy panel that's really obvious, like it's on the outside of the shoe or it's just really big and it takes up half the shoe. I like that this is hidden, so it's still there. You still have that little bit of flexibility for comfort of movement, but it actually just looks like a fully patent boot. I also appreciate that the zip is in the same colour as the patent leather. I think that's, again, another small touch that makes them feel more expensive as opposed to cheaper ankle boots where you usually see like a chunky, ugly silver zip or gold zip. This is a little bit more thoughtfully done. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I got these in a size 6, which is a European 39, which is on the bigger side for me. I'm kind of between a 5 and a 6, but as Sézane doesn't do half sizes, I usually in boots go up to the 6 because I find they fit me better, especially if I'm wearing socks or tights. Conversely, some of their shoes run big, like the Vicky loafers. I find that I have to size down in to a 5. The Paula babies I get in a size 5. Sézane shoes are often a case where the sizing is a little bit all over the place, so I would recommend trying to find reviews of shoes like this one if you're going to purchase a pair of shoes online from Sézane, because as I said, I can never really predict what size I need, but generally in boots, from what I found, I've tried a few pairs of boots from them, I always go half a size up. That is my video for today. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Let me know if it was helpful. Please do consider subscribing if it was. I would love to have you here for more videos in the future. I will also leave some videos on screen if you want to continue watching. If you haven't seen my kind of first impressions, reaction to the lookbook and the drop, then I will leave that here. And I will also leave another Sézane video here for you to catch up on and enjoy. Otherwise, I hope you're doing well and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye!